Travis Wayne Goodsell. Everybody involved with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and going back to Joseph Smith know about the theology of the latter-day exodus to Missouri. Whether or not they believe it, that's a different issue. But there's lots of situations that warrant it, mostly from scriptures, because that's where all the secrets are kept. So in section 52, he is talking about going to Missouri to be the land of inheritance. And thus you shall take your journey into the regions westward until the land of Missouri, unto the borders of the Lamanites. But that's Joseph's time. It's the latter days that we're looking for here. Section... it's callings in the land of Missouri. Section 57, which is the land which I have appointed and consecrated for the gathering of the saints. But that's again back in Joseph Smith's time. So that's the thing that Mormons need to be careful with, is what was Joseph Smith's context for speaking what he was speaking, and does it necessarily have to do with the latter days? And lots of Mormons throw stuff in when you have other scriptures that talk about section 84, for the gathering of the saints to stand upon Mount Zion, which shall be the city of New Jerusalem, which city shall be built beginning at the temple lot, which is appointed by the finger of the Lord. And so it's assumed that Zion and New Jerusalem are one and the same city. You do not know your biblical context. They were two separate mounts. City of New Jerusalem shall be built by the gathering of the saints. And so, yeah, he's talking about his day and time. Section 109, inhabitants of Jackson County, Missouri, and their inheritance being driven away. Yeah, there's really nothing in regards to Missouri specifically for the latter days in our current Doctrine and Covenants. However, there is section 103 about the redemption of Zion. And of course, people assume that it's because the saints have been kicked out of Missouri, and so he's talking about going back into Missouri, calling it Zion. It's not what he says. Stick to what he says. You're going to be screwed up on prophecy. He says in verse 15, verse 14, he says, if Mormons pollute their inheritances, they shall be thrown down. For I will not spare them if they pollute their inheritances. Verse 15, behold, I say unto you, the redemption of Zion must needs come by power. Therefore, boom, here's our Christ, the learning of the Jews ain't Jesus. Nobody wants to believe. Because when you understand a man like Moses, you're supposed to actually go to the story of Moses to see how he, a Mormon in the future, is going to be like Moses in the story of the Exodus. Apparently that doesn't click for Mormons. The confrontation with Pharaoh, well, obviously we don't have Pharaoh in these days, so it's a symbolic prophecy. And likewise, you shouldn't be looking for a man named Moses. That's not what it says. It's Emmanuel, sun god of the Egyptians, of the 18th dynasty pharaohs. Interesting. And they just happen to be named the David-Moses dynasty. Isn't that a coinkydink? And so, Mormons are the children of Israel. And so Mormons are supposed to put them in the place of the house of Israel in the Exodus, with their prophesied latter-day Christ as Moses. This is how you interpret prophecy. Joseph Smith is telling you how to do it. And so who is Pharaoh? Well, he's the leader of the church, because that's what pharaohs were, leader of government and religion. But we don't have a theocracy in the United States of America, Travis. No duh. Anybody familiar with the Book of Mormon? What does it say at the beginning of the Book of Mormon? After saying it's prophecy of the latter days, and Lehi then goes on to say that he has a star date dream in the future, which is exactly the same as Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5, which the Joseph Smith translation says is 1, 2, and 3. And it just happens to be the exact same pattern match with Joseph Smith's second vision. Interesting. Wonder if there's a coinkydink there too. And so who gets put on the throne in that first year of the latter days? Who? Yeah, not the president of the church. He comes out the next year. That's the sign of the dragon. Revelation chapter 12, or chapter 12, verse 3, which is verse 4 in the Joseph Smith translation. Yes, I know the dates. If you're new, you're not going to believe. So I keep getting dumbass comments from people who think that they know better than me and don't believe that I know. I should have already dropped a whole bunch of bombshells that you've never even considered before. So Mormons are the children of Israel and the seed of Abraham, thus the covenants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That the seed of Messiah should come through him now as Yah, Prince of God, not let God prevail, rather than Esau, his brother. That's the significance of the usurpation of the birthright and blessing. And even though the story says it's Joseph Smith Jr., 2 Nephi chapter 3. Mormons need to be led out of bondage. So go back to your Exodus story. Mormons are the house of Israel. Their Christ is a human man like Moses. They are in bondage. To who? To Pharaoh. The church and the government. What church are Mormons in the latter days? This is real simple. And as your fathers were led at the first, even so shall the redemption of Zion be. There will be an exodus. Well, no, there won't. You missed it. There will be an exodus in the terms of the Book of Mormon scenario of Mulek and the people who survive the captivity of Babylon and escape and come to America. America, huh? Jesus Christ comes to America? Are we sure it's Jesus? Are we sure it's during the classical period in America? You do know that it's not the ancient period. The ancient period starts with the end of the Persian Empire into the Greeks, which start the classic period, and goes until Constantine destroyed both the government and the religions, creating his own, which then started the Dark Ages, because he created a not real deity for his brand new religion, which Joseph in verse 19 of his visionary account calls abominable. If you're not even going to bother to use Google search, I didn't have Google search when I was a boy growing up in the church. And so Brigham Young led Mormons astray by calling this valley Zion. And thus Brigham Young was nicknamed the modern Moses. He actually was fleeing the country because of the crimes he committed. You know, murder of the founder of the church he claims to be a successor of. I did the videos. We just had his Remembrance Day. You know, if you're only going to watch a few minutes of my videos, or you're not going to watch them at all, you have no excuse to make a comment that shows your ignorance. You know, if you're at least trying and there's something you don't understand, that's one thing. If you happen to miss it while you were listening to the video, that's another thing. If you hear me say Revolutionary War instead of Civil War, that's another issue. But that doesn't justify refusing to listen, refusing to believe, simply because you don't like the title or the picture. Because how did the house of Israel behave toward Moses? If he's the man like Moses and Mormons are the house of Israel, what's the prophecy? Mormons are hard-hearted. They're stiff-necked. They're proud. They're arrogant. They're unbelieving. They're denialists. They're angry. They want to murder him. Are you doing that? Oh, right. You think it's Jesus. You didn't even know about the man like Moses. So where are we going then? if there is to be an Exodus, which you missed in 2020 and 2022, which was the second harvest, and now we're at Mulek, those who survive the day that shall burn as an oven. You didn't know this was the bicentennial year of that either? Well, yeah, I guess if the prophets don't tell you, then it isn't significant. Whose prophets? Who do they represent in this parable? The story comparison? And so, is it Missouri that we were going back to? The answer is no. We have LDS Living, who points out the traditional view that there are 3 appearances of the Savior before his final second coming on 8 April 2024. No man knows the day of the hour, Travis. If you're not going to bother to watch, okay, let's see. The first is Adam on Diamond, which I've told you has already happened. Again, if you're not going to watch, why are you just going to not believe and fulfill prophecy? Oh, you're fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, that makes you the good guys? No, that makes you the bad guys. You're supposed to go, oh crap, I just fulfilled prophecy of evil. And then you're supposed to repent. I won't get into repentance, because if you don't even understand what I'm talking about, you definitely don't want to know about how repentance is the wrong word translated incorrectly from an incorrectly translated word. That'll be way too complicated for you. And so the next one is at the Temple of the American Zion in New Jerusalem. They were clever to be general with that. And to a group of Israelites on the Mount of Olives. Oh my God. Dum 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 dum. Anybody know which South Park episode I'm referring to? He was kind of a little off, but still a hilarious episode, especially watching the woman who does mission videos for little girls wanting to go on missions. And she put inverted pentagrams on one of her thumbnail pictures. She did an episode also of reviewing that show. And it just went right over her head. She didn't catch it. She wasn't offended. She didn't even know what was going on. I don't even think she heard dumb. Oh, it's a musical tune. I just, oh dear God. Oh dear God. And her try-on, she needs help. Not with the fashion, with the camera. I did like in the thumbnail picture though, for covering up garments. I would like to see a bigger size version of that. But I wonder which file, if it'd be on this laptop. That'd be cool to use that. Okay, and so yeah, we need to correct this. So Adam on Diamond, there's some problems here, as this is the secret headquarters of the Danites. Yeah, there's some history that you've been lied to about by who? Oh, the Danites. No wonder they lied to us. Amen is not the correct spelling. In the Joseph Smith papers, you do know about the Joseph Smith papers? You've been referring to them. You've been studying them because it says it's the authorized source. You're no longer listening. Yeah, it's the wrong spelling. They're mocking Joseph. They plagiarized or forged documents that you can identify of being put in Brigham Young's Doctrine and Covenants the final year before he died, that date to 1838. What happened in 1838? Yeah, the coup of the church. Brigham Young becomes the president of his 12 with that coup of the Danites. And so what Adam-on-Diamond is all about is the overthrow of the United States of America and the restoration of Zion in Salt Lake City. So that's not what Joseph is talking about. And so thus there is no Adam-on-Diamond. But he does, well, I'll get into that corrected portion after. Then the temple of the American Zion, which is 19 July 1840. It's in the Joseph Smith papers. There's a whole bunch of secrets in there, bombshells. Really worth studying if you really want to be Mormon. Why are you Mormon and not studying the Joseph Smith papers? It is not a clique group. It is not a social club. This is a Latter-day Saint religion. An apocalyptic religion. It is not a social club. We'll see if it gets put in the title. And so it's the mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem. Cities, mountain cities. And it is in America because Article of Faith we believe in the literal gathering of Israel and in the restoration of the 10 tribes. That Zion will be built, it has in parentheses the New Jerusalem, which has me concerned as to the original letter of the Wentworth letter, will be built upon the American continent. That Christ will reign personally upon the earth. Who's Christ? And the earth will be renewed and receive its paradisiacal glory. So this is what they're referring to, is that Zion will be in the United States of America. However, he's getting this group of Israelites on the Mount of Olives from Matthew 24, as well as Revelation, Book of Revelation, and some Old Testament prophecies. But that's the whole point. They're prophecies. Anybody know a guy named Nostradamus? Yeah, was he specific? No, he wrote in code. The quatrains They were coded. Why were they coded? Well, if people actually heard him say Queen Catherine or whatever was around during his time, will be a whore and bear 3 children, he would be executed. He has to encode them. Likewise are all of the prophecies. It seems like it's literal history, but science says no. And yet Mormons demand and insist that science change, rather than accepting that it's prophecy, as I just went over with you with section 103. Mormons are to put themselves and their real Christ and the great and abominable church and the great and abominable prophet, who's a false prophet, with the false Christ of the false prophet of the false church, in the place of the various characters. You know, liken the scriptures unto yourself. And so there is no group of Israelites on the Mount of Olives who see Jesus. The whole nuclear bomb in Israel ain't gonna happen. It's America. Day that shall burn as an oven. Salt Lake City. And hopefully not a nuclear bomb, because that would lessen the amount of survivors, and depending on how big it is, may get me in the outer blast radius. Please use a small one if you're going to do it. I think a 1K is about as big as it can go. Let's find out. I mean, nobody's listening. This is just for myself. Nuke map. I think it's Nuclear Secrets, nuclearsecrecy.com. Yeah. And it's there in New York. So we preset it to Salt Lake City. Okay, and the yield in kilotons, 1, and we'll do surface. It won't be accurate for casualties and radioactive fallout, but we'll put it in there anyway. And detonate. Because it's saying that there's only going to be 5,000 of you who are going to instantly die, and then 10,000 injuries. So then we pull back, and yeah, okay, and we'll do 3, detonate. Cool. So I still survive that. 5. Ooh. I even survive a 5. Cool. So let's do 10. I don't survive a 10? No, I do survive a 10. I do survive a 10. Wow, okay. So now let's find out where I don't survive. I survive a 30 kiloton. My goodness. Whoops. A 50 kiloton even. My goodness. There it is. Wow, a 100 kiloton. I'm right there at the outer edge. That's good to know. See, it's moderate blast damage radius, 5 psi. It's got a flashing thing. That's interesting. Oh, because I'm clicked on. Okay, that's a new addition. Light blast radius, damage radius, 1 psi, 5.46 kilometers. At around 1 psi overpressure, glass windows can be expected to break. This can cause many injuries in surrounding populations who come to a window after seeing the flash of a nuclear explosion, which travels faster than the pressure wave. Often used as a benchmark for light damage in cities. Interesting. So yeah, your windows will break, but and you will go blind by looking at the flash if you happen to be looking in the direction of the flash, or you turn to look at the flash, which would be dumb. But people tend to do dumb things when they don't know that it would be dumb for them to do it. Curiosity tends to get the better of us in those situations. So, yeah. Okay. That's good to know. But yeah, I'll still be able to take the freeway, but I can't head east. I have to go around down south on the freeway or north on the freeway. The I-80 will be gone as a travel situation. But yeah, I will be out of range of radiation sickness, which is good to know. And so, yeah, let's correct this for you. So, he comes at the beginning of the latter days and is helping Mormons for the whole latter days, 8 years. And we know this because John in Revelation gives us the days and the hours. Matthew does too, but it's all coded. And I know there are people that complain, no man knows the day or the hour. Well, that's great, you know how to quote. But clearly you'd have no comprehension of the context. You have no clue as to how to interpret prophecy. So yeah, Revelation chapter 12. This is it. This is the birth of the Christ, Emmanuel. Which, you notice how all the Gospels have him born and he starts his ministry? We skip his whole childhood and his marriage and his military service to the Roman Empire, all of it missing. We just have his birth, and then he's gone his mission. Not a coinkydink. It's because it's the latter days. It's prophecy. His birthday is a different prophecy. That's where he's talking about the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread. House of Bethlehem, house of bread, star of Bethlehem, Spica in Virgo, the house of bread star. There appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman in heaven, that's Virgo, clothed with the sun. Middle of September, middle of October. Then it moves on to a different constellation, and so on until the next year, middle of September, middle of October. Every single year, the sun does this. The moon under her feet, 29.4 days. So it's a specific day within the middle of September to the middle of October. And upon her head, constellation Leo, crown of 12 stars. There's 9 that designate Leo. No, there's 9 that designate Leo. There are quadrillion of stars. Infinite number of stars. So many stars we can't even see them with telescopes and satellite telescopes. You see blackout in space? Nope, keep going. You gotta keep going until you find more stars. That's how vast space is. And so from Earth, what we can see, 9 stars are designated for Leo, which means 3 other stars appear. How do 3 stars appear? No, not an explosion of a sun. Traveling stars. 3 of the 5 visible planets. So she's pregnant. How can she be pregnant? There has to be a traveling star, a planet, that retrogrades in her womb. Jupiter, he does. Jupiter's interesting because Jupiter is the Roman equivalent of the Greek Zeus, who is exactly the same spelling pictorially as the Hebrew god Yah, and is the equivalent of the Egyptian Amun, the sun god at noonday, Emmanuel, transliterated by Isaiah. The Christ. And so you have to skip to verse 5. Why? Because the Joseph Smith translation moves verse 5 to that constellation, that conjunction, to verse 3. And she gave birth, who is to rule all nations with the rod of iron, the Book of Mormon. Because remember, Joseph Smith said he's a Mormon. This is when he comes, Mormons. Where is he going to come to? The headquarters location of the church that Mormons are held in bondage to. Salt Lake City. in the valley, technically. And so from this date, which because everything is involved with it, there's the fifth planet right there, God caught up to his throne. The god of Jupiter is Saturn. That's the fifth visible planet. So the three in Leo are Mars, Mercury, and Venus. 23rd September 2017. There it is in the Book of Mormon, Lehi's dream, which is exactly the same as Joseph Smith's second vision. Joseph Smith just doesn't talk about the dates of the beginning, but he does refer to the Book of Mormon. And prophecies of the latter days. So yes, Joseph Smith knew, because he moved verse 5 to verse 3. Thus is 1838 history, visionary account, prophecy of the latter days. And so we now know when the beginning of the Exodus is. And so 8 years later, 2024, Revelation 19. And so verse 11, there's the white horse, Pegasus. And there's the name written that no man knew but he himself. That's the Egyptian sun god Amun at noonday. The stories in Egypt talk about his hidden name, that if people learned it, they would get great power, to be dipped in blood and go on a murder spree of mankind. Isn't that interesting? John's talking about that here. Hathor. And then, look, there's the rod of iron. And verse 17, here it is. Here's the date, because we know what's after 2017. And I saw an angel standing in the sun on the back of the white horse in Pisces. April 2024, the day and the hour of the final end of the latter days, when we better be in Zion. So where is it then? I've already gone over in 2 Nephi chapter 1 of this scenario that you will be going with him after the blast that destroys Zion permanently from the face of the earth. Whether it is a nuclear blast or people coming to Utah angry with Mormons for banning the Bible for porn, it's uncertain. But Joseph Smith history, 19 July 1840. He's referring to his parable in section 101. So why didn't Brigham Young put this in here? He was president of the 12, or soon to be. Interesting. It's in the paragraph with then the enemy shall come as a thief in the night. Again, speaking from that parable, and starting in verse 43 of section 101. And look, there's the Constitution in the latter days, hanging by a thread? Nope, not hanging by a thread. It will instead be, this nation will be on the very verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground, and when the Constitution is upon the brink of ruin, because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wants religious freedom to overthrow the First Amendment. and thus destroy the Constitution. Oh, hey, that's what they're doing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And yeah. Oh, wait, no. He talks about that at the beginning. Okay, he's talking about the parable, the 12 stakes of Zion shall be built. They are not the temple in Jackson, as some suppose. It's not Missouri. Mormons were misunderstanding that his original call to build up Zion in Missouri, after his original call to build up Zion in Kirtland, and then his original call to build up Zion in Nauvoo, were misunderstood as the latter-day fulfillment. So where would it be? He gave you the answer. 3 days of darkness, day and the hour, we know. Where do they cross? That's exactly where. Because he talks about the mountain cities. Freely, Nauvoo. For Zion and New Jerusalem must both be built up before 2017. Oops. How long it will take? When those cities are built, then shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Oops. He was murdered. Prophecy unfulfilled. Whole earth shall be utterly destroyed at his coming. There's what's often quoted. Oops, nope. That's the... Those who are now my friends will murder me. Speaking of the Last Supper. Principle of the gathering. We will build upon the top of this temple a great observatory, a great and high watchtower. So yeah, he's trying to start the fulfillment of Section 101's prophecy parable that he gave. It would be nice to have an observatory. Why would he want an observatory? Do you know what an observatory is? It's to look at space. What would he want to do with looking to space? Build the great temple as ever Solomon did. That's like in the Book of Mormon. There it is. This is what Brigham and others quoted. They refused to put this in their section of the Doctrine and Covenants. I wonder why. Must have something to do with that Last Supper parable that he gives. I prophesy that the time shall come when these saints shall ride proudly over the mountains of Missouri, and no Gentile dog nor Missouri dog shall dare lift a tongue against them, but will lick up the dust from beneath their feet. Humans turning to dust, huh? Or licking the dust, the enemy licking the dust. Here's a cool part. Anybody remember Nelson talking about the chief cornerstone of the cornerstone? Joseph understood this correctly. Why can't Nelson? The temple completed and finished from the foundation to the top stone. Mountain cities? Capstone. So, yeah. part about Nauvoo. Yeah, the state of Illinois shall become a great and mighty mountain as a city set upon a hill. The city of Nauvoo also. So Zion is in Illinois. The mountain cities. The foundation to the top capstone. So yeah, Southern Illinois, where X marks the spot. And then the Hebrews knew it. Paleo-Hebrew script, the letter A is on its side, and sure enough, all 3 days of darkness make a shadow over America with the Paleo-Hebrew A, alpha. It's the same as Greek. And then the crossroads, there's 2 of them. The 2 lower portions of the A, which are in the east, sort of. It's on a slight up angle. But the final one crosses over the 2 that are occurring. The second one is this year, 14 October, over Utah. And Samson talks about all 3 of these days of darkness, giving us the day and the hour. And so the redactor in Matthew was a malicious deceiver. Has fooled lots of people. I've seen all of their comments. But Tau, which is definitely more technically the Chi symbol. You know, the Chi-Rho of Constantine, to fool Christians into thinking that there is no second coming. It's already, or there is no coming of a Christ. It's already happened as literal history, and so there's no need to know of the day and the hour that he gives to Christians with his Chi-Rho sign in the heavens. That's what he was referring to. The rho is the Egyptian hieroglyph of a flag, an ensign, and means God. And so God, at the crossroads of the Chi, X marks the spot, is not only the day and the hour of his coming in the final second coming on 8 April 2024, but is also the location on Earth, the United States of America. That's how great a deceiver he was, because not a single Christian believes that. Yet they believe that he gave the Chi-Rho sign, and therefore he's Christian. It's true. Jesus is now real as not real. So, that took much longer than I wanted. But, I don't know why I keep wasting my time. Nobody's listening. Except for the few. Are you guys even listening anymore? Or were you just making comments saying, "Oh, I'm listening, Travis, I'm listening"? The key is to rescue Mormons. You've already been rescued. So, how do we get Mormons out?